Welcome to 5 More Minutes, useful videos in 5 minutes or less that support the teaching and learning of all students. I'm your host, Shelly Moore. Today's topic is Inclusion 2.0. Okay, friends, you remember the evolution of inclusion? Did you think it was finished? Oh, no. Let me tell you, because we have only just begun. We are in the middle of another evolution. Now, if you remember, inclusion aims to include kids with disabilities into our classrooms by emphasizing how these placements can be meaningful and purposeful. This is still very much a goal, but there's a big tension that is still making this inclusive shift difficult for many students, teachers, and schools. You see, many of these classrooms are still operating in a standardized curricular model, where the goal is to teach to the green. In this approach, teaching is aimed to reach the majority of students through one average approach, the green way, and then we try and do something different for students who need more support, but often it's after the fact. This retrofit approach makes the workload of teachers very high, especially when there could very easily be more than just one student who needs this type of accommodation to the curriculum. And I get it, making individual education plans for multiple students takes a lot of time and resources. So it makes perfect sense that as teachers, we would advocate for our workload by trying to reduce or limit the number of students who need this individualization. But what has ended up happening is that it's put teachers in a very awkward position trying to advocate for both inclusion and manageable workloads, and it's putting kids right in the middle of this debate. But is there another way that we could look at inclusion to better handle and understand this dilemma? I had a grad student tell me once, she said, Shelly, the problem with all of these conceptual diagrams is that the one thing that they have in common is the assumption that the majority of our kids are already green. But it's just no longer the case. And she's totally right. You don't need me to tell you that our classrooms are getting more diverse, not less. We are realizing that it's not just kids with disabilities who are different or need more support. We are running out of funding, resources, supports, and people to continue to operate in this standardized retrofit model of curriculum. So there are 2 ways we can try and respond to this dilemma. We could continue to try and manipulate the classroom composition, which just doesn't make sense. Or we might consider that maybe the goal of classroom composition is to no longer be homogeneous. This is Inclusion 2.0, teaching to diversity. The goal is not about including a couple kids who are different, but instead it's teaching to the difference. It is a beautiful way of being able to respond to all of our kids in classrooms where difference is no longer a burden of workload, but instead it's a celebration of strength. Now, we haven't always been able to make this shift. It is only recently that our curricular model has allowed for this kind of responsivity and flexibility. In British Columbia and many places in the world, we are shifting away from standardization and towards a standards-based curriculum. In this type of model, all students fall on a continuum of growth rather than being compared to an average or a single marker of proficiency. It is a shift to be celebrated. Free yourself the burden of standardization, British Columbia. I have a vision of non-standardization world domination. Spread the word. Tell your friends. So there you have it, my friends. The evolution of inclusion love has led us to teaching to diversity. The most important thing to remember, though, is that teaching diversity is not more work, but it is different work. Which leads to my question and call to action for you. Advocating for resources, funding, and inclusive supports is still a critical part of this journey, but looking at inclusion in this new way might start changing our conversations a bit about how to better support teachers and students in these diverse classrooms. So if you are in charge of ensuring the most support for the most diversity, what would this look like for you in your classroom, school, district, or even community? Don't forget to take a look at the website to check out supplemental resources, readings, and research for this episode. See you next time.